Yeah, yeah, because everybody will be up then, and
Right.
then we can go.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So just, well, Tommy can do that. Just welcome to the forum, more or less.
Yeah, and whatever how you get started, little history.
Okay.
Ready? Waiting on you. Hit it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We want to welcome everyone to our outreach field day put on by the Natural Resource Conservation Service in the Soil and Water Conservation District. At this time, we're going to ask that Mr. and Mrs. Alderman come up so that they can welcome you to the farm.
Patty, you coming? All right. You start.
Hey, I'm Patty Alderman, and I just want to thank y'all all for coming and welcome to our farm. We've been blessed to be able to go through the NRCS and get the high tunnel. We've done fence, we've done water, and so they're going to tell you all about those programs, but we just really appreciate y'all coming, and we're glad that y'all are interested in doing it.
Yeah, I'm Tommy Alderman, and we are tickled to death to have you here. Tickled to death to have our friends from the NRCS here. I can't recommend their services highly enough. And they are begging to give you money to implement practices that will benefit not only the soil at your place, but the community in which you live. They will help you to be able to produce more food, more meat, through the goat programs that they have and whatnot. So these are the nicest people you'll ever meet, and they're eager for you to succeed, which is nice in a day and age where sometimes you can feel like the world is against you. Well, the NRCS ain't against you. They for you. And so they're on your side, and they will go the extra mile to make sure that you can do what you would like to do on your place. So anyway, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that the NRCS is here. We're happy to let them do this, and I'm already thinking of a new fence contract. So where's Alan? We're gonna do some more fence. All right.
Wait, let me say one more thing. And also, after the program, we're going to tour the high tunnel and go look at maybe some of the other different things that we have. So we'll do that, and I'll explain what's in the high tunnel and stuff like that.
If you're on YouTube watching this right now, then there will be links in the bottom of this video that you can click to take you for information to help you find your local NRCS office. Also, I don't have a full battery on my phone, so if it just suddenly disappears, bye.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Alderman, for your warm welcome. At this time, we're going to have Mr. Benjamin Allen to come forward, and he's going to speak on some of the conservation programs that we have. He's going to that are installed through the EQIP program.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Benjamin Allen. I'm the soil conservationist here in Lincoln County. Today we're going to be talking about the EQIP program. The EQIP program falls under the Farm Bill program, and pretty much here the number one goal for NRCS is to help the people help the land. The second goal for NRCS is to protect the natural resources. And these natural resources consist of soil, water, plants, air, and animals. Okay, in your handouts you have with you, we're going to be talking about this program right here called EQIP. EQUIP. Under the EQIP program, the natural resources, we have specialty cropland, we have forestry, and we have pasture land. I'm going to start off talking about the seasonal high tunnel here. In your handouts, you're going to have a quick guide right here talking about the seasonal high tunnel. The seasoned high tunnels here are pretty much a plastic covered over a structure or building, and the number one goal is to help producer manage their specialty crops. Now, the different vegetables and the temperature of the seasoned high tunnels allow you to get an earlier start on seeding your plants into your potting, and also transporting those plants to a different seeding location in which you want to place outside. Pretty much, the second thing is late fall production during the winter months when it's cooler. So the season high tunnel can help you early spring or early fall. Dealing with the second land type, we're going to move on to cropland. Pretty much natural resources. Here in Lincoln County, we focus on crop rotation, terraces or waterways, wherever the land needs to stop soil erosion, dealing with cropland. Pretty much moving on over to forestry here in Lincoln County replants a lot of trees. So pretty much the different practices we have with forestry would consist of site prep. Site prep to replant a clear-cut site. That consists of an area application or ground application, depending on the site prep that needs to be done for tree planting. Pretty much after you do your chemicals, most management plans consist of fire lanes. Install your fire lanes, you burn and you plant the trees. And moving on after like 15 years or 20 years, whenever it's time for your thinning, keep in mind we have a program to help control the invasive species that might come up in your forest land stand. We help cost you with a release spray, area application also, or ground application depending on what's your need in the certain invasive species out there on your land. The fourth land type will be pasture. Pasture consists of, your animals will be horses, goats, and beef. Pretty much we help cost you with weed control that goes along with prescribed grazing. Pretty much weed control and prescribed grazing take care of the health of the vegetation that you're growing out there on your land. It can be Bermuda grass or Bahia grass. Doing grazing from cell to cell helps with the forage balance, and your the height and management of the grasses that's out there on your property. We also help with installing pipeline, a watering facility, water tank. They're going to sit on the heavy use pad, most likely concrete. It helps you out to keep mud and things from being around your watering tank. Wells also for a watering system if you don't have one. We place those water tanks in ideal location, splitting the grazing cells to allow management of that pasture land. If you have a watering source, that means you can move your livestock to different grazing cells as needed to take care of the grass and keep you from overgrazing. Cross fencing. Cross fencing is very important. That helps establish your grazing rotations. Cropland, dealing with, I'm going to move back to cropland, left one thing out. Dealing with soil health. Soil health falls on the equip. Soil health consists of cover crops and those crop rotations that hold the soil in place out there on cropland. And pretty much with the equip program, just keep in mind, everybody farm is going to be a little different. We cover all those 4 different type of land uses. Stop by the office. We'll go into detail about what we need to do on your farm.
Ben, I got a question from a YouTube viewer.
Okay.
If somebody's interested in a high tunnel, do they have to get one this big, or are there smaller sizes involved with the
Right,
program.
right. There are smaller sizes. The minimum size done with the NRCS would be those 600 square feet. Season high tonners.
Okay.
We do have a fact sheet on the website. So pretty much,
All right.
we have a season high tonner fact sheet, and then it answers most of the questions.
All right.
That question been asked before.
Tanya, make sure you send me any link to any piece of information that people can go to, like the fact sheet for the seasonal high tunnel, so people can see that. I mean, 600 square feet, that ain't real big, you know,
No,
so
no.
that can fit in a lot of places.
Right. Yep. Do we have any more questions? Karen, as of right now, I tell everyone to get the application in before November the 1st. As of right now, there has been no announcement as the cutoff date for application. So come in as soon as possible, and to make sure you meet the deadline. E-Corp applications are taken all year round. So as soon as you thinking about you need any help or assistance, come into the office that same day and make an application.
And I can tell you something that I learned too, that the first step is to go to your Farm Service Agency office. You have to go to the FSA first and register your farm. You've got to have, if you walk into the NRCS office without a farm number that you get from the FSA, he's going to say, go back out the door, cross the hall, and you got to do that. But it's a pretty cool process, and I actually ended up getting aerial plats, you know, Esri files of the aerial layout of my farm and all that kind of stuff. But so anyway, first step, and I don't know if everywhere, we're blessed at least here in Lincoln County that they're in the same building right across the lobby from one another.
Right.
But I think I think Tanya was telling Craig earlier that Jefferson County is not like that. NRCS office in Jefferson County, but the FSA office that covers Jefferson is in Adams County in Natchez. So FSA first, get that lined out, and get your farm number in your hand, and then go to your NRCS office and tell them, hook me up, and they will hook you up. And you've got time, even if you've never been to FSA, you still got time, you correct me if I'm wrong, to go to your FSA and get your farm number and register and all that, and still get signed up before November 1st.
Right.
I think so.
The number one rule is come in as soon as possible. Turn your application in.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all for your time today.
Who's next?
Good morning. My name is Alan Ross. I'm the soil conservation technician for Lincoln, Lawrence, and Franklin County. When you see me, it's time to go to work. Some of the practices that we have installed is when you first came in, you saw a fence. When we first met Mr. Alderman, he wanted to do goats. And when we first saw that place, you can see a big difference from now to then. Them goats had really done our objective, where we want to clean up wooded area. Because when we first come out there, you couldn't even see nothing.
You can almost see through it now.
Now you can see it directly through that. And that was one of our practices that Mr. Alderman had signed up, is fencing. And we have specifications to actually guidelines we have to go by, and that's my responsibility to make sure that everyone is doing exactly what the specification of NRCS allowing you to do. And also to your left, when you first came in, you should have noticed a heavy use area with a water facility. That's one of our top practices, popular practice that we have at NRCS through our equip program. And on that's one of our standard pads is 28 by 28. I always tell the landowner to always purchase their water trough, because it's easier to purchase their water trough first, because we got to have that 10-foot clearance around a 360-degree area.
Unless you put it against the fence.
Unless you put it against the fence. Because I try to tell a lot of my landowners that just purchase that water facility, because hit a help you out in the long run, because if that heavy use area is not 10-foot clearance 3 ways or 4 ways, then you're gonna have to call another contractor to come in and actually add more concrete. And that's gotta be tough on you. So I always try to tell our landowners to call us. Me and Cody work with me. Cody Sessions, he's a soil conservation technician for Brookhaven. Just call if you ever sign up for a program at NRCS. It's just the simplest thing to do is call someone in the office and let them meet with you or your contractor to make sure that everyone is on the same page, because I hate to see people or landowners, not people, our landowners to come in and everything wrong. They done put it in and called us, and I mean the bottom line, we just cannot pay for it, because we got to be whole accountable. So I'm gonna hold that landowner accountable.
This man scared me to death. When we got approved for the fence and everything, my thought was I was gonna do it myself, even though I'm about as handy as a dead frog. I was gonna do it myself, and Alan kept telling me, look, the specs have got to be met. They got to be exactly right, or we ain't gonna approve it. So I would have nightmares about doing all that, and them coming out here saying, what is this? And so finally, I went to a goat program somewhere in North Mississippi, and there was an NRCS guy from another county way off somewhere, and I was telling him about that, and he said, have you lost your mind? Don't you know there's money in that contract to pay somebody to put that fence up? And I was like, yeah. He said, pay somebody to put that fence up. So we came home and paid somebody. I found a contractor, a fencing guy, who had done NRCS contract fencing before, so he knew what the specs were, and I knew it was going to be right, so you got to get it right. But that's the great thing about these contracts, is there's money for labor in there. So if you're elderly like I am, or unskilled like I am, you can pay somebody to do it and not have to come out of your pocket. We had to come out of our pocket because the fence, I put up more fence than the maximum award allowed, but I basically paid $1,000 to fence in 25 acres of fence with 3 gates. If I'd do that every other year. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
But that's what I try to, as I've been working for NRCS for 20 years, and that's one of my main objectives, to try to make vital contact with that landowner to make sure that we can implement these practices that we supposed to be, because we at NRCS they gotta hold us accountable, because they come in the office and we gotta hold, we ain't our Mr. Alderman is a number. Don't nobody care about Mr. Alderman's name at NRCS. They gonna pull that number, and we gonna have to come out here and see what's going on out here. And and that's why that I try to do the best of my knowledge to be on the front end of NRD landowners to make sure they implement these practices to the best of their ability. Also, we put the fence, we put the heavy use area, water trough, and livestock pipeline. And we also, Mr. Alderman, you already had a well, but one of our also popular practices is installing a well that coincides with our heavy use pad and our water facility. And last is our seasonal high tunnel. Most of the average landowner, we got a standard, supposed to be a 40 by 2,800 square feet, 2,800 square feet, 2,800 square feet. That's our more standardized seasonal high tunnel. And it's just like Ben said, it's mostly for your it's kind of designed for, like, say for example, you had tomatoes and you wanted to start early or start late. That's kind of how I try to explain it to the landowners. Any type of vegetable that you so choose, you either can start early or start late. Anybody got any question for me?
I have a general question.
Okay.
So, where we are, we have unused land with a desire to use, But is that, like, could we go to the, once we get our farm number, can we go to the NRCS and say, okay, what's our, I mean, I know we need fencing, and there's soil issues, and there's, and our desire would be more for livestock than it would be for
Yeah,
gardening,
we-
just to kind of get that plan in place too.
we actually don't turn anyone out for signing the application. It's our job and responsibility to come out to your place and kind of see what you have. We just don't take an application and talk to you on the phone and say, well, we like to physically come out there and see what you got and try to attach some of our practices to some of your needs and try to make my main objective, try to, if you as a landowner, make your objective and a goal like Mr. Alderman had, and stick with it.
Yeah, they came out for the first step after I got the FSA set up, and after I went into the NRCS office and told them what I wanted to do. The very next thing they did was come out here. They set up a time to come, and we walked and talked and all of that, you know, and it helps them. They know what's available, they know what's appropriate, and by getting a lay of the land and seeing what you got, they can put the pieces together and say, well, how about this, or what about this, you know.
I got a question. It may be something you have to determine once you come look at it and everything, but I'm thinking about getting the high tunnel set up. But I live on a hill. My house is on the top of the hill, and I'm farming everywhere else. It's got a pretty good slope to it. Would the NRCS do like the land leveling, or would I be responsible for that? Or?
Really, you got to be real selective about the area that you so choose, because you want no runout. You don't want no water running to this point here. You want to still stay on the highest point if you can.
Right.
And also you plant vegetables now.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of our requirements. You got to self-certify saying that you planting vegetables. Also, you see down here, this is our micro irrigation, and you got to certified fuzz. You know, saying that you got, like Mr. Alderman, you got a water hole that's showing that you're trying to irrigate. So that's one of the requirements. Also, you got to certify that you actually doing irrigation.
Does the NRCS offer anything in regards to land prep? In other words, if Craig does not have a suitable flat location, does the NRCS offer any assistance in
Land
leveling that land or anything like that?
No, sir. He'll have to kind of prep his pad itself and kind of get it level and for the installing of the season high tunnel. We also have vendors out there that we try to give. We got a contractor list that you got to be a certified approved for this. You just can't come up and just throw this together and have 1,000 pieces out here. It's not work like that. You got to actually buy it from a certified vendor.
And a word about that, you know, there's quite a list of approved vendors for the NRCS high tunnel packages from all over the country, and you're free to choose anybody that's an approved vendor. But some of those vendors from way off somewhere, if you buy from them, they're going to send an 18-wheeler here with all, you know, bundled up, and they're going to drop it in a hand set of instructions and say thank you very much, and they're gone. The reason I hate it, Colby Summers from Tubular Structures in Loosedale was going to be here this morning, but they had something come up and he had to go to Alabama. We chose Tubular Structures from Loosedale, Mississippi. Number one, because they're in Mississippi. They're a Mississippi business. We wanted them to benefit. But also because they don't just show up and drop it on the ground and leave. Now, our high tunnel, anyway.
So can you tell us how much extra the trusses and the construction cost?
The construction was an additional $3,500, additional $3,500, which is a significant investment. But
They had some kind of thing it was like 40 hours or something like that. And it takes, so I don't know the quota, how many men or women that you had to have to actually construct it, but it was an 8-hour job for 5 days a week. If you actually want to do it yourself. I don't know, don't quote me on how many people that you got to have, but That's what they had it standing on, 8 hours a day, for 40 hours to construct one of these yourself.
Yeah, well, they missed that estimate.
That was when we first started doing season high tunnel. Any more questions? Okay. Glad to be here. If y'all got any questions, y'all call our office there in Brookhaven, 601-833-9321, extension 3. You talk to Miss Tanya, myself, Alan Ross, Ben, Alan, Cody Cessna, and Miss Terry, and we'll be glad to help you any way we can. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I know your agenda says farm loan by Mr. Terry Bowley, but we're gonna ask Mr. McKay, Mr. Stacy McKay to come forward.
Thanks for having me too, by the way. My name is Stacy McKay. I work with FSA. I'm headquartered out of the Brookhaven office. And I know FSA is on the program today to talk about the farm loan program. However, can I just hold it? However, we are short of farm loan program staff. And so therefore, you should have some handouts, some written material in your package there that talks about the farm loan program. FSA does offer farm loan programs or ag credit. We do cover direct loans, farm operating loans. We have micro loans for both farm and operating loans through FSA. Guaranteed loans where we work with lenders through you for loan program issues, and we also have youth loans. And so they're handing out the farm loan now, some basic information on the farm loan program. Now, I'm not qualified to talk to you today about the farm loan program, so you really need to talk to a farm loan officer or farm loan manager. My suggestion is that contact the county FSA office or go by the county office if you can, and just explain to them, what your interest is, and tell them that you're interested in knowing more about the farm loan program, what it has to offer you, and if it can benefit you. That way, if there is a staff shortage situation in that county office, that'll give us an opportunity to put you in contact with some farm loan program staff that can sit down with you and talk to you and help you out with what your farm program needs are. Now, I'll be around here the rest of the morning, so if you have any questions about the farm loan program, I may be able to help you out with that. Earlier, there was some talk about registering your farm with the FSA, or the Farm Service Agency, and I thought I would talk a little bit more about that, if you will, as to what that exactly means. Really, that's kind of step one with the program participation process with FSA and NRCS and others as well. What that means is that the farm and track records with FSA is just a basic record that kind of grows, if you will, based on participation in the programs. If there's a situation where you need to establish a farm and track record for the first time, which means that FSA does not have a farm and track record on record for that particular tract of land, that the record is being established for the first time, what you're going to need to do, bring FSA is a land deed showing the ownership of the property. You'll need to have the name, the address, and the social security number of all the owners of that property as well. because that information has to be loaded in the system. And it's very helpful to have a plat or some type of survey that shows the boundaries of that property that you want to establish with the FSA records. That right there is a biggie, because we want to get the boundary lines correct because of neighboring, farms or landowners and whatnot. Another issue is that updating farm and tract records, if you will. There could be a county office where there is already a farm and tract record established. It's just not your name if you're now the owner of that property. In other words, at some point in time, that land ownership changed over the years. And now you have it and you want to get it in your name. Well, come to the FSA office, bring a deed, bring a plat showing the boundaries of the property that you own. Of course, we need your name, your address, your social security number to load into the system. That way we can update that record if it needs to be updated, in the sense that maybe you only bought part of the land. Okay, so we'll have to go through a process of dividing out what you now have versus what the previous owner has. So anyway, that's just some examples of what we mean by registering your farm with FSA, updating the records. There could be situations where you don't actually own the land, but you lease the land. You need to go by the FSA office and provide the FSA office with a deed, not with a deed, with a lease, a written lease. Is always good to update the records to show that you're a producer on the property. You lease the property. You're not the owners of the property, but you are now associated with this farm and tract. Also, your name, social security, and your address, so we can get you loaded in the system. Is there any questions on updating these farm and tract records?
Yeah, well, no, not on that, on the loan.
Okay.
But I mean, like the high tunnel, for instance, can you get a farm loan to help you?
Question. I'm not sure about that.
What's some checks there?
Buying cows and calves, buying equipment, farm equipment. Would be an example of a direct operating loan, term loan. Facilities, you can buy facilities using the loan program. I'm just not sure about this type of facility, but that's a good question. That's why it's important to talk to somebody that knows a little bit more about the farm loan program than I do. They can do pretty quick. My guess is, yes, I think it would be eligible, but I'm not positive about that. Any more questions on anything?
Is there ever an instance where you think you've never been registered, but you find out that your property was?
There's all types of situations that we run into. You can come by the FSA office anytime and say, hey, look, I want to take a look at my farm loan. I want to look at my farm and tract record. Just to look at it, make sure that it's up to date, because over time, these records do change. Land is bought and sold. Tenants come and go. There's land changes. But I would touch base with FSA and just to make sure that my records are up to date, and ready to go. Everything is current and accurate. The biggest problem that we run into now, as I see it, is that we have, developed from manual or paper maps to these digital aerial imagery on our system, and everything is geo-referenced. And so when we, several years ago, transferred our farm records over to this web-based application, if you will, we ran into issues where boundary lines overlapping. And ownership of property lines were overlapping. So we had to go in and correct that, you know. So things like that pop up, you know, and you want to make sure that's right. Which requires you to go in and correct the boundary line. You may have to move it, you know, over a little bit, something like that. Another thing too is that we do have situations in this area where there's not a NRCS office, there's not an FSA office in every county. So take Fayette for a moment. They have an NRCS presence there, but they don't have an FSA presence. But that county, is covered by the FSA office located in Adams County. So the landowner will have to communicate with the Adams County FSA office to update their records there in Jefferson County. And so, that's one of the things that we have to do. And sometimes it gets kind of squirrely because the first thing that the FSA personnel is going to do is determine whether or not there's a farming track record that exists. Period. It could exist out of the FSA office in Adams County, or there could be a record that exists through the FSA office in Claiborne County. So they have to work out that situation where they have to determine if there's a record on file, anywhere from a county office, from an FSA county office in that area.
We've actually got people watching from all over the country. And so what's the best way for them to determine where the FSA office is that serves wherever they are? Is there a particular web address that they can hit that will?
Well, off the top of my head, I would suggest they go to farmers.gov.
Farmers.gov. Farmers.gov.
That could be a starting point to determine where county offices are located,
Okay.
in the United States.
I'll try to remember to do a little research on that and actually find the underlying link to, there's bound to be a search function in there somewhere, where they list their location and point it to them. But farmers.gov is a good start.
Good start. All right. Well, thank you so much.
At this time, I just want to let you know if we do have water over there in the cooler. If you wanted to take a minute and grab your bottle of water before the next speaker come up, we'll give you the opportunity to get your bottle of water if you want to get a bottle of water. Okay. Well, the next person we're gonna have, she wasn't on program, but I put her on program since she's here. We're gonna have a representative from Alcorn, Miss Margeria Smith.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
I think she put me on the spot this morning, but that's okay. I'm here and I'm thankful to be here. Good morning again.
Good morning.
For those who don't know me, my name is Margeria Smith. I'm part of the Alcorn State University Extension Service County. I also serve Lincoln County, and I also serve Walhall County. So today I'm just gonna talk to you a little bit about our farm loan as well. Now, how many of y'all familiar with Alcorn's farm loan? So the difference between our farm loan and FSA farm loan is, can you guess? They also have a list of criteria that we have to go by. So you can check the Alcorn website. Ms. Velma Oliver is our farm manager and our loan specialist. She usually comes out and access things and go over the criteria with everyone. We also have our farm loan application, which is also on our website as well. So if you want to take a look at that, you can also do that as well. So I just, when she asked me, I told her, I was like, okay, I don't know anything about the farm loan, but I know that there are no interest rates. So that was the basic main thing that really caught my attention. And for any
like that, as far as purchasing your cows. And I'm not a farmer, but I grew up on a farm. A lot of things wasn't accessible to my were coming up, so they kind of did things off the top of their heads. And I think with him getting all his cows and stuff together, he didn't have anyone to say the information was out there, and he just didn't get it. But he did well as a farmer. We raised chickens and cows and stuff, and actually this is pretty much where I kind of started at. I used to volunteer for Miss Patty Alderman and her husband on this farm a few years back, and I used to come out here. We used to pick peas, and Miss Patty used to teach me how to make bread. So I've been here. So it took me a minute to kind of find my way back here, but I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to see all you guys. I see Mr. Kerr back there. I see Mr. Jones and Mr. Marcus. And these two right here, I met these two a while ago. So it's good to see everybody. I'm actually new to the Alcorn family, and I'm actually in the process of getting my master's. So I'm trying to go further in this. I enjoy what I do. I love working with farmers and things like that. So if you guys, I'll be here for a few more hours.
Can you tell the farmer what's the maximum amount of money that they can actually apply for? Do you know that?
All right, I guess it's my turn now. Again, I am Tanya Cover, and we're going to talk a little bit. I'm just going to piggyback off some of the things that some of the other speakers has talked about this morning. You have in your folder, you have 5 steps to assistance. Planning is number 1. Someone mentioned earlier having a goal, having an objective. If you have no goal and objective, then when the NRCS personnel come out there, you just out there and y'all just fumbling because you don't know what you want to do. You got to have some kind of idea, some kind of goal, some kind of plan on what you want to do on your farm. So, establish that. Once you get your plan established or your goal in mind, then you contact your NRCS personnel so y'all can try to meet with them out there, and they can try to make your goal fit for what you want to do. The second thing is your application. Each folder has an application in there. And I will take a few minutes to just walk through those steps with you. It may look pretty thick. It's actually not that bad. So if you want to, I will go through the application with you while you're here and just tell you the basic parts that you will have to complete. I'll give you a few minutes to get your application. Everybody there? Okay, so we on step 2 of the steps to assistance with your application. On the top, you'll find an application reference sheet, and that's your general information. You're gonna put on there your name and address, telephone number, a good contact number that we can reach you on. You want to put the county, your section, township, and range, which kind of help us find the location of the property. And then at the bottom, you'll kind of put down what you're interested in. And that way, when we give you a call to meet out there on your farm, we'll kind of see, if it's grazing land or is it forestry land, erosion, animal, we'll know what we're looking at. If you turn to the next page, that's going to actually start your 1200, which we call the NRCS CPA 1200. Again, you'll fill out your basic information. You got your name, your address, your telephone number, application date, the county, and then we're going to get down here to, you'll put your farm and tract number in your location. And again, that's what you get from Farm Service Agency that Mr. McKay was talking about earlier. So the first question on that application is going to ask, do you have farm records established with the appropriate USDA service center? If you don't have no farm records, there's nothing we're going to be able to do. You have to get farm records established. You have to have a farm and tract number. So when you come in, if you don't have them, we'll send you across the hall so that you can get them if you have your deed with you on hand. Again, before we go any further, we're talking about this farm records. You got to have control of the land. You have to be either the owner or you have to have a lease. You have to have control of the land. Question 2 will be already answered for you. It'll be the EQIP program. We're going to talk about CSP in a minute, but if it was the Conservation Stewardship Program, it will be checked for you. But this is an EQIP application. Number 3 It's asking how are you applying. Are you applying as an individual, an entity, or a joint operation? You'll select one of those. Then you'll move to the second page of the application. You will select your crop production or your livestock production, whether you have goats or you have cows or you're growing trees or whatever you're doing out there on that property. And then number 5, you would select whether it's private land, public land, or tribal. Question number 6 is going to ask, do you have basically about the control of the land? Do you have a deed or some form of evidence of land ownership? Or is it a written lease agreement? If it's a lease agreement, we will have to have a copy of that lease agreement. And then just to show the years of control that you have, because you have to have, control for the length of the contract. Question number 7, is the land under this application enrolled in any other conservation program? If you've been in a conservation program before, you would check yes, but if not, you would check no. Question number 8, do you meet the criteria for any of the following categories? We have limited resource farmer, we have beginning farmer, we have socially disadvantaged farmer, veteran farmer, rancher, or not applicable. Under there, you'll find information that kind of tells you what each of those mean. Limited resource farmer is based off 2 years of income, which is a self-determination tool. And I think for Lincoln County, it's like either 24,000 or something to that nature for Lincoln and Franklin County. Beginning farmer, you have to not have a gain or loss within the last 10 years. So this is, just 1 year out of those last 10 years that you haven't had a gain or loss on your income tax. And then social disadvantage, the self-certification, and veteran farmer, you have to be a beginning farmer to be a veteran farmer. You have to be both to be checked veteran farmer. And being beginning farmer, limited resource farmer, social disadvantage, or veteran farmer, it just gives you a higher percentage in payment versus the regular payment that you will receive. And then question number 9, is any of the land offered for enrollment under this application? You'll check what applies to you. Then you flip over to question 10, and it says, have I received a copy of the applicable conservation program contract appendix? You would check yes or no, which you probably will because it's one attached. That's what the rest of that information is. And then you basically sign and date that application. Are there any questions on the application?
Could you go over some details of what these programs are, what they would cover?
The tree planting?
All of them.
That's what Mr. Allen kind of went over this morning. The tree plant, they all fall up under the EQIP program, which is the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. So you can do tree planting through that program. All of these, tree planting, the grazing land, the erosion, you got animal waste, the prescribed burning, and the quality vegetative management, all of those going to fall under the EQIP program.
Well, I can read that, but you tell me what they would cover.
The details, I guess, of each practice.
Tree planting is, you got site prep, you got spraying, you got the trees. That's for tree planting. Grazing, you can put in, like he said, they put in a heavy use area, pipeline, water wells, cross fencing,
You pay for seeds?
weed control, pasture planting, all of that go with grazing. Prescribed burning and fire breaks, that's like an existing stand that you already have and you needing to burn it. We pay for burning and putting in fire breaks if fire breaks are not already there. Or if it's a new stand and we need to put in fire breaks and burning for site prep, we could do that too under EQIP. Are you still not understanding?
And a fire break is basically a bulldozed lane. Okay.
I really do.
For those who don't, it's like a bulldozed lane around a tract of timber that would make it difficult for flames to jump from one tract to the other.
Okay, so the next step to assistance would be number 3, which is the eligibility, which is going to Farm Service Agency. You have to complete an AGI form and a 1026 form to be eligible to apply under the programs. And our next step is ranking. I don't think anyone mentioned the ranking process. There is a ranking process. You may put in an application. Sometimes everybody's application don't get funded. It may be the next year for your application get funded, but there is a ranking process. No matter what category you apply for, whether it's forestry, grazeland, there is a ranking process. And the next step, if the application is once it's ranked and it's approved, you're implementing the practices. You have to install the practices, you sign the contract, you have to do at least one practice within the first 12 months of the contract, or you will be out of compliance. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the CSP program, just briefly. The CSP program is the Conservation Stewardship Program, and the Conservation Stewardship Program kind of rewards farmers for what they're doing. Basically, if the farmers out there already managing the land or grazing the land or whatever, improving the land, basically CSP gonna pay you for maintaining what you're doing. Then you're gonna come back and you can, you have to do an enhancement, and that's for existing practices or existing enhancements on the property. So if you have, with CSP, the minimum payment for CSP is $1,500. That's minimum for doing what you're doing for managing your property. If you're eligible and your application is ranked and it's approved, minimum payment is $1,500 on the Conservation Stewardship Program. The Conservation Stewardship Program is kind of like one of our new programs that we're trying to get booming, but it's a great program. It really makes a big difference. Some of the once you make an application, you come in and sit down and go over some of the enhancement with us, and we kind of see what would be best for you, and you see what's best for you out there, and see what we can make work. But the Conservation Stewardship Program is a great program to sign up for. So, are there any questions for me? If no questions, we're going to have Mr.
Before you do that, can I say one thing about the beginning farmer classification?
Yes.
When we first applied, they told us about this beginning farmer thing, and I kind of chuckled because Patty and I had been filing, when you do your taxes, there's a schedule that you can file for farm related, either losses or gains. Well, we've been filing that since the mid 1990s, Patty, or something like that. So I just kind of chuckled, and they told me, was there any time during that period where you didn't? And I said, well, I don't think so. They said, well, you need to go look. And so we went scattering back through our records, and we've had our taxes professionally prepared forever. I was a police officer, and we paid somebody who knew how to do that for police officers just right. And lo and behold, in like 2006 or something, we did our own taxes, and we did not do a farm thing. So what did that mean for us? That meant that from 2006 until 2016, because it's a 10-year designation, from 2006 to 2016, we qualified as beginning farmers because we skipped a year. Now, whether that makes sense or not, I don't know, but that's the way it is. And I think it was 2014 when we, at the time that we started all this process. So we had 2 years to go. So we were able to qualify as beginning. So whether or not you have filed for farm losses or gains on your taxes. And if you haven't, at some point in the last 10 years, you qualify as a beginning farmer. Did I say that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have Mr. Dennis Jones to come up.
Good morning. I'm Dennis Jones. I serve as the area conservationist for the southern 24 counties of Mississippi. I thank Ms. Covert for having me here today in the Lincoln County Soil and Water Conservation District. You've heard a lot of information here today and from a lot of presenters, but I will say this, and I think Mr. McKay with FSA and Ms. Smith with Alcorn would agree. We are the government, and we're here to help you. When I say we're the government and we're here to help you, NRCS spent over $60 million this year alone in Mississippi through the EQIP program. That ranked number 3 in the nation as far as the amount of funds spent on the EQIP program. In South Mississippi, we spent over $10.5 million just in the southern part of Mississippi. There, you heard a lot of information today, a lot of programs, and I think everybody said, every speaker that got up and said it, we're here for you. If you don't focus on the programs, the name, you just focus on what your plan is, what your objective is, and what you want to do. Come in and share that information with us, and we'll get you where you want to go if it's available. Like Ms. Corbett and Mr. Allen and Mr. Ross got up and they were talking about our NRCS practices. That was just the tip of the iceberg. We have hundreds of practices that we do, and there's no way we'd be here over a half a day, probably a couple of days if we went through each one and explained it. So I always tell people, before you do any practices or anything that you're thinking about doing on your farm, come in our office, talk with us. If it's something that we can assist you with, we'll be glad to assist you. One thing about our practices, you can't start on the practice and then come in and get paid on it, or once you start on it, it kind of puts us in a position where we can't pay on that practice once it's started on. So before you ever start on the practice, I would say come in and check with us and see if that's something that we can help you with or not. I'm going to throw this slight disclaimer out there. If you all know, the federal government, our fiscal year just started last week, which was October 1. So each year we have some slight changes in our programs, not expecting any wholesale changes, but everything that you were told today, we hope is still in play. This is also a farm bill year, so we don't know which way the farm bill will go. So I'll throw that slight disclaimer out there. If you come in 5 weeks from now and say, well, you told me we could do that, a high tunnel could be this size or something, things do change slightly from year to year. And most of the time they're changing in favor of the landowners, allowing us to do more practices, hopefully, that maybe even some practices available that we didn't mention today. But with that being said, Ms. Colbert, that's all I got to say. One more thing I'll say, take this information with you, share this information, let as many people that you can think of know about it. I know we got a good turnout today, but if you take it to church, take it to work, let them know that we're here to assist them and we're ready to provide any assistance that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, at this time, we're going to ask the aldermen to come back.
What are we doing?
Well, we wanted to, if y'all wanted to come and look in the high tunnel, this is kind of, we're playing with this right now. We're learning. There is a learning curve with a high tunnel. I've been doing some studying and stuff like that. I went ahead and planted it. I haven't got my soil tested yet. I'm going to be doing that before I plant for the spring, because that's very important to know what's in your soil and everything. But I wanted to go ahead and get going where I could play with it some until before spring came, before spring comes.
There wasn't no keeping her out of it.
No, I was chopping the bit. I want to put my tiller in there while I was working on it.
Colby Summers at the Tubular Structures, who provided the high tunnel, he counseled us that don't even plant in it for a year. You know, you just work on your soil. I just looked at him. I said, dude, you are wasting your breath. I said, you won't be out of this driveway before she's in there putting something in the ground.
Well, I love the high tunnel. I really, really like it. There is a learning curve to it, and I'm learning. This year we're having grasshoppers really bad, and I've talked to Craig and Jolene, which they have gardens and everything, and they agree the grasshoppers are worse this year. It's not just the high tunnel, but there are going to be just high tunnel issues that I'll have to figure out. But there's lots of books out there and lots of stuff on the internet about it. But this, I can't remember when I actually planted the garden, but one important thing that we've learned, and I don't know if it's just to do with our clay soil that we're on, but we have 2 side rows that we will be taking down and just using that as a walkway because they stay super moist. I think we've only watered them once or twice. So there's different issues, but if y'all want to come walk through the high tunnel, and I'll holler and let y'all know about it. And another thing, the irrigation is wonderful, but we're fixing to invest in a moisture meter because we've actually been watering way too much. So, and we have other practices back over there. I don't know if later y'all want to walk over there or when we get done in the high tunnel. So, oh, go ahead.
Did you put in the irrigation system yourself?
Yes, yes.
And how do you till in there with that?
Well,
You
we actually don't till in there. We haven't tilled in there since we put the irrigation. We've hoed in there one time. That's another thing. I've been really impressed. I use my manure. We try and be all organic, and so I used my manure for my fertilizer, and I knew I was going to add grass seeds in there. And it's not been horrible. And on some of the rows, I'll point them out to you where we have not weeded. We have weeded some, but it's much better than, because it's not getting water everywhere. It's just getting water where I plant seeds. So, yes, sir.
What are the other practices? Like,
We
is there like a water?
we have the water pad thing. What's it really called?
High traffic area. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a concrete pad with a watering, thing. We've got two of those.
We've got two of those, and we also have the fencing.
Maybe after lunch we'll walk over there, or before,
they
or
may be,
whatever.
yeah,
I don't
whenever
know.
they say we'll walk, we can walk right over there. Any other questions before we go in?
One more thing about, we don't plan on, the tiller's still sitting right here, but we don't intend on tilling anymore. We're probably not going to have to, because it's an amazing thing how soft that dirt still is, because it's not getting rain. It's not getting, the rain, it waters things, but it also pounds down. Now we plan on mulching it, but we haven't yet, and the ground is still so soft because it's not getting beat down by the rain.
So all these native plants that are in here, when you put it, they don't germinate anymore?
There's been some germination.
A little bit.
Ground cherry, I've pulled up some of them, but where we've watered. But like in the pathway, I mean, there's been very, very little grass in there,
Yeah.
or weeds.
Weeds need water too. You just throw it.
I done lost connection again. I don't understand what's happening.
The reason why I asked about all that is because that's what my issue is in my garden. You can't keep the weeds out.
You should see my garden.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you my
And I've got
garden.
a lot of stuff now that's not even planted. I run the mower through there. I can't run the tiller. I'm depending on my son to do it. I used to always
This
do it.
area here,
This whole area
I've not planted
was
anything.
covered
This was gonna
just like
be
that.
Brussels sprouts.
This high pond, since
and
it's been
broccoli.
here,
Broccoli didn't
like-
grow.
like right
I thought
here,
Brussels sprouts are going to be
there-
growing still
that
on
was
my
here.
tomatoes, so I didn't plant anything.
but it's not gotten any
You see,
moisture
this has not
since I
been
got
weeded.
rid of it, and
And
so
it's been
there's none
watered.
coming.
It blows my mind. So these two right here don't have anything.
So how much
This is
does
where
a
I
drip
planted my
irrigation
lettuce. From
cost, and what do you
here,
have it attached
halfway
to?
down.
What's feeding
And
the
you see
water?
what lettuce I
Right
have
now,
left?
I've got a water
from
hose
the,
leading to. I got a spigot coming out of our well right over there,
grasshoppers.
but we're eventually going to run
Um,
pipe from there to here. See, it's attached.
Down
right
there
now.
at the end, I had planted tomatoes. I was going
You
to
do
plant
raised
broccoli
beds. 'Cause I
and
was
Brussels
thinking
sprouts
about
here.
doing
The
raised
broccoli
beds,
didn't
but
come
I
up.
think it costs too
But
much
I
to set
got them
them
in
up.
seed
That's
trays.
that's it.
And Brussels sprouts here
That's
because
why
I
we
think they're going to
decided
still be
against
here in
it.
the
We
spring
still
when I
may
want to
put
plant
some raised
tomatoes.
beds. We
And
didn't
so
go
I
all
haven't
the
planted
way to the
anything,
end.
but I planted squash down there.
Oh.
So I've been.
And so
This
we
has
may
been
do
getting
some-
water.
because we
This
may
has
do
not
some
been
raised beds
hoed.
down
This
there.
is what little bit of
But
weeds
we
that's
were
grown
gonna
up
do
in here.
raised beds, but
So I've just
the
been
cost is
very,
what
very
kept us from
excited
doing it.
about the
How
low
long's
amount of
plastic
weeds.
supposed to last?
4 to
The
5
lettuce
years.
And
is
then,
because of that didn't grow is because of grasshoppers and
$500 to get it up.
water.
That
Same thing
sounds
with that
about when
side.
they told
My
us
And they
things,
I
radishes.
don't know.
My radishes have made on
I
that
don't know.
very end row. But nothing
We
else
haven't
would,
had
and I
that
think it's
yet.
because of
Put it up
grasshoppers,
yourself
and
with
it
6 people.
stays so
Yeah.
wet on these edges.
Yeah.
All right,
That
one
was
more
amazing
question.
how easy that was. As long
Yeah.
as you got rope long
Yeah,
enough, that's a
Ryan.
long, that's 3 long
Yeah,
pieces
Ryan,
of
with
rope.
6 people.
There.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
No, this is green beans. Typically, you can't grow on when it's cold.
How long do you think the
And it's
tomatoes will
frosting,
stay?
but with the
Probably
high
December.
tunnel, I'm trying it. I think I'm gonna pick green beans at Christmas. That's my goal. That's my goal. I didn't put up enough green beans this year anyway. Plus, I go to the market, and I knew I'd be able to sell some. But you see how wonderful they're growing. You have to come out here every 2 days and wrap them
But what a great idea.
and train them like this, because they just are growing crazy. And I think they're fixing to flower.
You know.
They do? You see some? Oh, I do too. Well, when will I have?
You got a bean? You got a bean?
Craig said to do. Got a
Yay.
bean. So what? A week or two?
About a week and a half, 2 weeks. You ought to be
Hey, well, I'm asking one more question. What can you raise year round?
Well, I'm gonna experiment and see.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're gonna figure that out.
All right.
But like tomatoes, these tomatoes, these are a variety that grows good when it's cold. You know, usually tomatoes want warm weather. I specifically picked these two varieties to grow in here during the winter time. So I'm gonna see. I'm hoping to have tomatoes at Christmas also.
Oh, I hate
We're gonna see about that. One thing you have to consider though, with when you plant stuff in a high tunnel, is that pollination. Green beans are self-fertile, so that's no big deal. But like the squash that I have down there, that requires the bees or wasps to pollinate for them to make. So it's an experiment having the squash in here. Also, the cucumber that I planted, which is right over here, and I have some little cucumbers on there. This is a variety that don't require
You could hand pollinate squash.
Yes, I know. Well, I'm just going to see what happens though. But yeah, I know I can hand pollinate. And typically I won't plant squash in here if I'm growing for the market. You know, it's not enough room to do that. But my main thing for the market I'm going to do in here next year is tomatoes. So hopefully I'll have tomatoes by June 1st.
cucumbers over there.
Yeah, little bitty ones.
They're loaded. It's loaded with cucumbers.
It has a
Patty.
bunch of cucumbers on it. I'm very pleased with that. Then that's mustard greens down there, and I have army worms. Craig's diagnosed me. I've seen a bunch of little worms, so I'm going to probably spray that because the army worms will eat my tomato plants too, and tomatoes. So I want to get a jump on them. But
One of the things I'm most excited about is in this corner over here. We're hoping that works out.
yeah, that's our banana.
Banana trees.
And if you notice, we didn't extend the rows all the way to the end. And that's because we plan on planting some different trees and stuff like that that's not cold hardy. So, kumquats?
The borderline, they
I
may
See, that would
love
do-
me
that
some
would be fine
bananas, and
here.
that would be nice to
Yeah.
be able to just walk out here and get me one. I told Patty, you know, if this works, because you can grow banana plants here, but a lot of times they won't make, or the fruit will drop off, and we think, you know, it's more of a tropical plant. Well, you can have almost tropical conditions inside this thing. So if it works, shoot, man, we might plant a whole bunch. How neat would that be to show up at the Brookhaven, Mississippi Farmers Market with fresh bananas?
What you say you call it?
We're going to go ahead and
It's building.
The whole building, it's called a seasonal high tunnel.
Oh,
High tunnel, like a tunnel you drive through. Seasonal high tunnel.
right, come.
Hmm.
So me and my daughter, we gonna try to
early planting like a
build.
We love it.
Can.
just
Yeah.
died when it got too
Yeah.
cold.
That would
Oh,
be-
January. Yeah. Down here they want to plant the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
time,
yeah.
but then it gets too hot and they start.
Oh, well, cool.
Yeah, oh, it does.
And, you know, in the spring.
Let me tell everybody on YouTube, bye. We're going to hang this up because I'm having trouble. So, hey, everybody, thanks for watching. I apologize for the technical difficulties we've had this morning. I'm not really sure why we had them. I've got great Wi-Fi signal out here, but for some reason it kept reconnecting, and I'm sorry about that. The bad news is on the replay, there'll be missing information during those times. The good news is it'll just be a blip in the replay, but give me a chance to get research and get the links ready to go in the description. They're not there now, but in a day or so, the appropriate links that you need to find further information about NRCS programs, location of NRCS offices and FSA offices in your area will be in the description of this video. So, thanks for watching. Sorry about technical issues, and we'll see you next time at Alderman Farms.
All right.